Hey, what's going on, everybody? The Sammy J here with Mental Edge, where we have a definite badass today, which is what we do. We bring the badasses to you so that they can give you all their badass information and make you all badasses. At the end of the day, that's what we're all about. Today, we got Sarah Sawall, and I'm just going to hand it over to Sarah because this is a show that we could literally do a Joe Rogan 5-hour freaking show on. And I want everybody to listen up. There's going to be a lot about honesty, pride, ego, and narcissism. And that's going to be the huge point here. If you're dealing with something right now, please, or you know somebody, or you even think you know somebody that might be going through something, have them listen to this episode. Sarah is just a wealth of knowledge, and she is a complete badass, like I said. So, Sarah, introduce yourself if you can to everybody, and let's just jump into this bad boy.
Well, thank you, Sammy. I will just kind of give a little bit of background here. When I initially reached out to Sammy, I think this was going to be more of a business. Originally, it was going to be a little bit more focused on business and career, and then it really led down this rabbit hole of my personal experiences with having been in an abusive relationship for over 15 years. And that's going to be the talking points because I think I probably have more knowledge, at least more personal, heartfelt knowledge to offer in that area. But as far as a background a little bit more, I am the mother of 3 grown children. I spent about 2 decades originally moving up the corporate ladder, raising my kids. And during that time, I was in an abusive marriage that was never spoken of until I left it. But as I reached empty nester status, I really just took a really hard look at my life and realized it was not fulfilling, not an ounce of happiness. And I hate the term happiness because I think we misuse that nowadays. But it was just dark. It was in a very dark place, and I took basically just drastic action in a very short period of time to turn that around. And that happened by way of leaving the relationship. But in order for that to happen, it took a lot of looking at myself and asking, how did I end up here? And that comes down to how we end up in abusive relationships. And I think going back a little bit further to the career side of things, visually, if you saw me, I have a background in bodybuilding and weight training, and I've always come across as a very strong, independent, don't take any shit type of woman, which is accurate in the outside world. Professionally speaking, I've had successful careers in sales and finance. Always been in male-dominated industries. Did very well financially speaking in terms of my careers, and that is where the pride and ego got in the way of the really what was going on behind closed doors, as far as being in a very abusive relationship, both to myself and to the kids in the household and whatnot.
Hey, Sarah.
Stuck there.
Real quick, I want to hit on something that I feel like a lot of people don't really understand and see. What she just said was, I'm a bodybuilder. And if you see Sarah, I mean, y'all see her now if you're watching the video, she's built. I mean, I'm gonna politely ask, because I don't want her to smash me. Can you throw us up a bicep there? Just one bicep. Holy crap. See? It's one of those. But I feel like a lot of people, we would look at Sarah and we'd go, there's no way she's mentally, physically, any kind of abuse is going on to her. I mean, look at her. She's a complete badass. I want everybody to understand that this kind of abuse happens to everybody. It doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. When somebody knows what they're doing, it's all here. It's all in your mind. And but I really wanted to touch on that because, again, I feel like a lot of people look at strangers or even people that we know and we go, there's no way that's happening. I mean, Sarah's a badass. Look at her. There's no way that's happening. You don't, we've heard it all our lives, and I'm going to say it here. Quit judging a book by, by its cover before you open the book and read it, you know.
On that,
it's just,
I think where we assume based on the cover is we assume if someone is successful in career or health and fitness or any type of exterior area, we assume that success pours over into their relationships and things like that. Unfortunately, they don't, because every area, at least what I've found, is every area of success in your life, it's based upon your own field of belief system. So if I believe I am more than capable athletically, I'm going to excel there. If I believe I am very capable in the corporate world, I excel there. Where that did not pour over, unfortunately, came to relationships. My belief system for myself there was incredibly low, and I could go back to childhood, lack of father in the home. I've been able to pinpoint the reasons why that is, once I really had asked myself, how did I end up here? But you unfortunately you're not feeling that in the moment that you're in that relationship. You don't know how you ended up there until you ask yourself that. So in being with a narcissist or in a toxic relationship in general, I would just add that there are no random hapless victims. I hate the term victim. They happen. They're there by design almost. Narcissists are very skilled at feeding off of your personal belief system of yourself when it comes to romantic relationships, not the professional life. And then they will take whatever trauma they know about you from your childhood or at any point in your life. They will then grab onto that piece of trauma, and then they will build a mind control system around that. And that is what gets you in that relationship and keeps you stuck there, different periods of time for different people. I'm certain for me, it was a very long period of time before I really looked at that and ultimately came out of it. But it's when you're on the other side of it, you can look back and see exactly, you can begin to point exactly to where you got stuck in that trauma-based mind control. But where pride and ego gets in the way with that with me is there comes a point where, especially, I think it's even worse probably if you are successful in the other areas of your life, is ego's not all bad by any means. But if you haven't established a healthy self-worth, then it gets in the way. Because if you don't have self-worth, but you have this strong ego, the ego will kick in to basically keep you from feeling the shame and embarrassment you have from that relationship. So to not, in protection of the shame and embarrassment you have from being in a relationship like that, your ego kicks into play, and then it kind of keeps you from, the ego makes up its own reality, and then that ego reality keeps you from the true situation of what you're dealing with. And then it's just this vicious cycle that keeps you in defensive mode while you're in that relationship.
Now, I got one. Well, have you ever heard this one? Because I know that I hear people saying it to other people. Well, Sarah, you chose to get into it. I mean, you chose that. That was your choice. Why don't you just choose to get out of it? It's your choice.
That's a very good point. You're right, but that's the part where we did pick this person that we're with. And that is where ego comes into play, because now your ego gets into hyper defensive mode. I mean, I had a very similar, that exact thing happened to me. Now your ego gets into defensive mode, and you want to prove to people that my judgment wasn't bad. I didn't pick a bad partner, and you're trying to prove that you didn't have a misjudgment, or prove that you weren't wrong, essentially. Then you stick, for me, I dug my heels in, and I'm like, I'm going to make this work, and I'm going to prove to everybody that this can be a healthy relationship, and this can be a good person. And then you think to yourself that if you just do a little bit better, if you just try a little bit harder, you can make it work. But the pride and ego comes into play, because I for years hung on because I didn't want other people to be right about what I had picked as a partner. So then you put the facade on of it's going okay, it's getting better, when in reality it's not. Um, but that's eventually you get to a point where the unhappiness is no longer worth being right.
Yeah.
Um,
And that is,
but
hey, everybody needs to understand that isn't an ego thing. Essentially, pretty well everything she just said, that is, for me, what she just explained was ego, and ego, I think a lot of people think is something, dramatic and overwhelming. Oh, they got a big ego. Oh, whoa, whoa. No, sometimes an ego is just as simple as I'm going to defend myself.
mhm.
And that's as much of an ego as anything else.
You're defending yourself. At least I was defending myself too, as far as my judgment of my partner's character.
Mhm.
That's a really hard. That was a really hard to follow. In the end, was just giving up and letting go of the fact that I picked a wrong partner. Understanding why I picked that partner. I can pinpoint exactly how I got into that relationship. And this is where I would add that narcissists are very skilled. When you're in the beginning of a relationship, as we all should, you share things about yourself in getting to know your partner. Narcissists, on the other hand, will take things that you share, and eventually they will create themselves as being the hero to the problem, to that trauma, or the problem to that concern you had from a past life. But that is just a form of gaining control over you. And then once they've got that control over you, it's a downhill. It's downhill from there. And in my case, I'll openly share. I had my son at 19. And I grew up in a very traditional home where you had a father. Well, you're supposed to have a father in the home, and you're supposed to have your children after marriage. And I desperately wanted to raise my kid in a two-parent home. The white picket fence, by all purposes, that perfect family dynamic. This
Yeah.
individual knew that, and then that is all of a sudden what he became the hero was going to be able to provide. I'm going to be able to provide the strong father figure in the home. I'm going to be able to provide that figure. And double-edged sword side to that for me was, when the abuse started occurring, I didn't know what a father figure looked like. So to me, I'm thinking he's being the strong father figure that you're supposed to have to keep your children in line, to be the role model, when in reality it was all not. It was the complete opposite of being a strong male figure in the home. But that helped perpetuate the abuse for sure. Was this individual knew what I had been seeking, and that I had never seen it in play before. So he knew that this is what is a good relationship. This is what a healthy father figure does. So that perpetuates it for sure.
Mm-hmm. I heard you talking about the father figure part, and I grew up in a home where my dad was present, but he was never present. He was never, while he was physically there, I've never done, and this isn't a woe is me, this is just a reality. I've never went fishing, hunting. I played football. He's never watched me play football. Like, he just was never present, you know. And I took that and said, I will never be that type of father. I've taken all my kids and grandkids fishing and hunting, and watched them play ball throughout their whole lives, and whatever they did, I've always been a huge support. So, and it's up to you if you want to go here. Was your dad really not present, or was he like my dad?
Literally not present. So my parents divorced when I was 2, so I don't have any memory. Up to 2 years old, I don't remember that. So they divorced when I was 2. I have no memories of visitations with him from the age of 2 to 6. And my understanding is that there weren't very many visits in there to begin with, and he was in the same state. Then when I was about 6 years old, 7 years old, maybe, he moved to Arizona, which is where I'm at now, ironically. He moved to Arizona. And then, so from 6 years old to, 18, I think I had at most 6 visitations out here. And I think there's probably only actually 4. If I were to look at photos, probably 4. But so aside from the physical visitations being incredibly limited, he was an alcoholic, so he was not connected with reality at all. He was not there, no phone calls, no, except on your birthday and a holiday. And this goes to the self-worth aspect for me. As I remember as a kid, probably up until my teen years, I would regularly write him letters and cards. And at the end of every letter, I would always put, P.S., please write back. I was begging for some form of connection with him. Yes, please write back. Never, ever once in the entirety of my childhood did I get a letter back. And then when he passed away in 2016, I remember my stepmom at the time she had some, boxes of things and whatnot. And some of those letters were in there. So some of them had been saved. And I'm looking back at these and I'm like, that motherfucker, like who never writes back to their children? It was just, crazy to me. But that certainly played a role in being susceptible to an abusive relationship, because I had never had a male figure throughout my entire childhood. My mom never dated, so that could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. But so I had a positive male role model ever, or saw what a healthy connection looks like. So to me, you don't have my self-worth was built into my career and my appearance. That's where it was, because it never came. I don't say you should build your self-worth around a man by any means, but I never saw what a healthy male-female connection looked like. So that certainly perpetuated the abuse for 15 years. But again, when you hit rock bottom, you have to answer, how did I end up here? And I believe in every case of anybody's, something going on in their life that's not healthy for themselves, whether it be an addiction or a bad relationship, I think it 10 out of 10 times goes back to something with your childhood. And I can pinpoint to myself, that father-daughter or lack of father-daughter relationship. So the saying, she's got daddy issues, unfortunately, is probably true with a lot of women, as much as we would not want to admit that.
But I would say on top of that, it's also a belief in the system, or a belief in the story. We've all heard this one, at least I know in my world, we've all heard this. I'm sure you have. You take 2 kids, and this isn't going off of what Sarah said. This is a different scenario, but you'll get the point. You take 2 kids that grew up in say an alcoholic dad, right? 2 kids grew up same household, same everything, same mom, same dad, same everything. One kid at 25 years old, you ask him, why do you drink every day? And he goes, well, my dad did. You ask the exact same kid that grew up, the brother or whatever that grew up in the same household, why don't you drink ever? And he goes, because my dad did.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, it's just like she's saying, and it makes total sense. She took her story and it caused this in a relationship. And it was kind of a taught thing. This is what the belief was towards this relationship. I just said in my relationship with my dad, there wasn't one. I flipped the switch. I was the kid that said, my dad drank, that's why I don't. My dad wasn't a dad. That's why I tried to be the best dad I could. There's no wrong or right to that. It's your belief in the story, and I want everybody to understand that. If you're the alcoholic right now and you go, well, I do it because my dad did. Well, that was your belief in the story, and you can still change that belief. You can still flip the script. It's your story. It's not your dad's story. Make it your story. If you don't want to be the alcoholic and go through the same shit you've seen your dad and the relationship go through and all that, it's your story. Flip the script. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, No, you're exactly right on that. And for me, it took where I realized the damage I was causing is there hit a point in there were different. It wasn't a linear path outside of that marriage. Unfortunately, I couldn't say there was one defining moment. It was a series of moments that ultimately, after each moment, you take a couple steps forward toward leaving. And, if you get two steps forward, you get one step back. But eventually, over the course of X number of years, you find your way out of it. And my path started in 2013. I remember a very specific defining moment. And then it was 6.5 years later before I asked the individual to leave the home. So it was not I don't, unfortunately, we can't say just leave because it's psychologically not that easy. But there's the next key defining moment for me was in 2018 with some incidences with my children. And that was the eye opener for me of, okay, I'm not the only one being, I'm not the only, again, I hate the word victim, but I'm not the only one suffering here. And now I am ultimately subjecting my children to this suffering in ways I hadn't previously seen. I should have seen prior to 2018, but I didn't, unfortunately, because I was in too much survival mode myself. But in 2018, there were some things that occurred that were a new level of eye-opening for me, or a new layer of eye-opening. And that was when I started taking a little bit more drastic action toward getting out. But it came down to me seeing that I was now perpetuating and keeping that cycle going of a dysfunctional home ultimately. So it was dysfunctional in different ways than my childhood of not having a father. But now I was almost doing the opposite of it. I have a quote unquote father figure in the home for you guys, but it's dysfunctional in, a million different ways. And I did not want to keep that cycle going. So when I saw that was in full play, that's what it took for me was the connection of realizing that I am now creating a whole new generation of damaged individuals. And if they don't see me get out of this now and fix me now first and do it in a timeline where they can see that change occur and see that action happen so that they have a role model to follow, even if they choose not to follow it themselves for years to come. But I knew it would have to start with me, especially when it came to their pains and traumas and things that they were feeling. I couldn't sit there and tell them, go to a therapist. Why are you feeling that way? I was trying to get different kids in therapy and they weren't receptive to it. But I realized that I was the worst because they were dealing with, because here I am living it every single day. And the hard pill I had to swallow and understand was they've never said this. This is my words, but it's like they can't respect me because of what I was living and subjecting myself to and them to ultimately. And if they don't respect me, they're not going to trust me in anything I have to say about any topic in life, no matter what it is, whether it's personal, professional, health, whatever. And when I put that connection together, I couldn't live with that. I couldn't live with the idea that my kids can't respect me or trust me, because they didn't trust me. And I realized they didn't trust me because they didn't respect me. And that was really some of the defining self-realizations that had me getting out of that, because I would not be able to live with myself to create a whole nother generation of people that are just fucking up their relationships, fucking up their kids someday. And, I at least had to lead by example. And that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years, is really showing that. And it took, I'll add that it took me being 1 year, almost a full year of completely no contact from my ex. So initially there was still some contact with him. But then once I went completely no contact, it was a year after going no contact that my kids, all three of my kids, really began to open up and share with me their experiences, how it's negatively impacted their lives, and how we can all kind of come out of this better on the other side. But it took a year of me modeling by example, which was my intent, but it doesn't happen overnight. It was a year later, before
Yeah.
they really opened up and um, continue to open up and continue to make better choices for their lives. But that was where I had to be the lead example on that, and I'm honestly super super grateful that it has only taken them a year
Yeah.
to start to make better choices. But
So now
it's
to go back just a little bit, I'm sorry to cut you. Uh,
you're
so you
fine.
had said like your initial thought, I forget your exact wording, was in 2013, and then it took 2018 to really realize, then with the kids and then more time. I can you go into that a little bit? I feel, or I know I've heard it. Uh, how many chances do we give these people? And then what do those chances look like? I mean, literally, I did for everybody that doesn't know, I'm going to do a plug. Go look up Mental Edge on TikTok. I did a video exactly about this, and I named 6 different chances that we give a person. It's like, well, it'll get better. Well, it wasn't my fault. Well, it was only this time. Well, and we keep giving chances, and it's like, well, how many chances do I keep giving them until I give myself a chance?
Here's what I would add: the amount of chances I gave. It's directly, explicitly stated as chances from 2000. I was with the person from 2006 to 2005. I'm sorry, early 2005 to 2020. 2007-ish, I think, is when it started with the quote unquote chances verbiage. But for about 6-7 years, I would say it's in the dozen plus. I mean, it's a constant state of giving another chance, giving another chance. But they have a way of flipping it on you to where, at least for me, every time you're giving a chance, you get a story of like, well, I did this, or I'm acting this way because you this. It's always gets flipped back onto you. And if you don't have a strong self-worth, you really buy into that. Oh, I did cause, if I was better here, they wouldn't have done this. So you feel like it justifies you giving chances, because you feel like, well, I kept failing and I kept failing this many times, so I got to keep giving this person a chance too, when in reality that's hogwash.
So what
I would
real quick, what are some things that, and I know we're talking about a narcissist man right now, but there are narcissist women.
there
If you
are
could tell us a couple 3 things that kind of, hey, if you see this going on, or what, and then this is the way you feel, that's a sign. That's a huge sign, because I don't know that a lot of people know that they're with a narcissist.
if you are constantly questioning your reality of a situation, where you know what you saw, you know what you heard, you know what you're feeling, and this is where the gaslighting comes into play. They, in a conversation or an argument or anything with this person, they have a way of flipping it to where you now begin to question your reality of what you saw or heard or think you saw or heard or felt. That's a sign. I would say don't quite your gut instinct. When I look back, even on myself, was right 100% of the time. And I had a way of suppressing that gut instinct based upon what someone's trying to convince me is the reality of a situation. So go with your gut. I would say my gut would have never steered me wrong if I hadn't just fought against it. So that is where, it's
Yeah.
almost it's there to save you. You don't even know it. You think your mind is stronger than what your gut instinct is telling you, and it's not. At least I've found it not to be. I don't know if that kind of answers that question. That's where I
Yeah,
would add.
no, it is. It's just, again, I feel like a lot of people don't know. um, we do the blame game on ourselves, is essentially, I know with my now ex-wife from a long time ago, I came home I wasn't even in the country. I was gone out of country, came home to everything was gone. She was in another relationship. I mean, my whole world was flipped. And I still said, what could I have done different? What did I do wrong? How could I have done better? Not saying that was a narcissist thing, but I still played the blame game on myself. Like, it's what did I do? I did this. I did this. No, I literally wasn't even in the United States at the time, but I still blame myself, and for me, that's a hard, is that in your opinion, is that a pride or an ego thing, or is that just a not accepting the reality?
I think that's a healthy. We are operating non-narcissist, non-abusive people. We're operating from a sense of always trying to do the right thing and not looking at things with complete malice. So I think it's hard for us to grasp the callousness in other individuals. So it's natural to kind of look at, a growth, self-improvement oriented person is going to try to look at, well, where could I have done something better? So I don't think I think that's a big thing. Unfortunately, when we are in a dynamic such as these types of relationships, that is the very thing that keeps us there, though, because we're always looking at how we could have changed the outcome of it. And in reality, there's just some situations where you can't change the outcome.
Yeah. Yep. All right, we're gonna switch topics real quick. Just again, I know this is something that, and here's what I'm going to ask everybody: if you would like to have Sarah back on the show sometime, give us a hell yeah, shit yeah, whatever you want to say, because I'm going to go ahead and invite her back on sometime, because we could talk about this and so much more for hours and hours. But what I do want to talk about right now, because this is a business and a mindset thing too, Sarah, I'd love for you to tell us about your business. There you go.
So my current business is I am the owner and designer of a brand called Qontevo, with a Qontevo. I design and market a line of lunch and meal prep bags. We target women, but there are some masculine skewed bags as well. So that is what I do now. I've done that for the last year and a half or so. Prior to that, I actually have my master's degree in finance. I was always in finance and sales related careers. But kind of the same time frame of when I left that marriage, I was like, I'm going all in on what makes me happy and what I want to do. And I found that the creative side of making things, bringing it to reality, and the business entrepreneur side, that is where I thrive and what I have am very passionate about. So, yeah, I did
Tell me more about these bags. Wait, you said what kind of bags now? Meal prep and what else?
Lunch bags, meal prep bags. People use different terminology for them, but they skew on the large side. So it would be for people who need to pack a full day's worth of meals. It is not going to be a small lunch bag for one meal. Full day's worth of meals.
They keep my food cold or hot?
Your food cold. I suppose you could go hot, but ideally they're insulated, so you can use the insulation to keep your food hot or cold, whatever you put in it. They are our submarket. I would say our specialty is that they are fashionable lunch bags. They are specifically styled to be stylish and not throw off the complete vibe of what you're going for with your personal dress attire. So it does not look like you're carrying a lunch bag.
Would they match my wall behind me?
I suppose they skew more neutral, so you could go anything neutral with that by all means.
There we go. And then, so what made you decide to go into lunch bag or meal prep bags or lunch?
It really was a little bit accidental how I fell into that, but it started, given my health background, and then when I was raising my kids, I would be gone all day long with between the gym, the kids' activities, and my career. So I'd have to pack a full day's worth of food all day long. And the typical big box stores carry small lunch bags. They're small, so they're not adequate, and quite honestly, they're ugly. And then the large, yeah, they look like they should be from my grandmother or something. I don't know. Someone took a shower curtain and folded it into a lunch bag. So then you have a couple big brands out there that people would be aware of in the fitness community that sell meal prep bags, but they skew very, very masculine and or very hardcore gym goer. And while I go to the gym, I didn't want my lunch bag or my carry it. I wanted something that was stylish. So it was based on need. So I just started drawing and creating and made a couple, put them out there, and found that I wasn't the only woman that felt that way. So saw some success in that, and then went back and started drawing more and having more made. So we have there's an entire market of women who need a large lunch bag that do not fall into the fitness category. So they weren't, they're not buying from the fitness brands. And that's kind of the niche market that I've gone after. So I would say what was that?
Oh, I was going to say, can we get custom made ones? So my wife, and anybody that's watched the podcast here knows, my wife is into Bigfoot. So if I called you
She's into what?
Bigfoot. Okay. Sasquatch.
Okay.
So if I called you and I said, or I went online, I went on your website and I said, I want a Bigfoot bag. Could you make me a Bigfoot bag?
No, unfortunately, because I don't, while I design them and sketch them and ultimately the design I control, I have them manufactured overseas and there are minimum order quantities. So unless you have an entire market of women, people that would want a Bigfoot bag to meet the minimum order quantity.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, I didn't know about that world until my wife. There's a whole world of Sasquatch and Bigfoot lovers and followers,
but they also have to want a bag. So you got.
They'd want it.
Okay.
Here's what I've learned with these people: if it has a Sasquatch on it, they want it. It could be anything. I could literally. I'm not going to. I'm in my office. I could go in our bedroom right now and grab you some of the most oddball things that have a damn Sasquatch on them. And you're like, really? Why? She has a Sasquatch literally on her key ring that you press and it goes, "Arr!" What the hell?
I'm probably not the best in that area. But it could be done. It could be done.
It could be done
on a mass quantity scale.
All right. Well, I guess that's okay then. Where would everybody go to learn more about the bags, for one, and two, to order a bag?
It's Qontevo with a Q, so Qontevo.com, and that's also on same name on Instagram and Facebook, but the website would be the best source as far as reading a little bit more about the brand and ordering.
Cool. And what if I'm assuming, because we're all social media buffs, where would people come and follow you at?
Yeah, so it's gonna be my first and last name. I'm mostly active on Instagram. It's gonna be Sarah with an H, and then my last name is Sawall, so it's Sawall. So it's just Sarah Sawall at Instagram. There
we go. I follow her. I'm gonna go check out these bags. I know I'm a guy, but still, hey, here's something that probably some people haven't thought about, and for me, it's just another market you could hit. I'm in construction. You know how many construction guys carry around these big ass lunch boxes who would love to just have a bag? And it's not a weird thing. Literally, it turns into a pain in the butt carrying around a big.
There are some bags. So like I said, we market to women, but we do have, there's three styles in particular, three color schemes, I should say, in particular on our website that are not purely feminine. They skew neutral, I would say. And I have, we've had a number of men order them, and I assume they're office workers, but it's not entirely for women. There's some that skew men, but unfortunately, women. The reality is that women are the primary consumers in the U.S. So that's
It's true. It's true.
And I understand and can relate to them a little bit better. So that's my market. But I want to add one thing too, Sammy, is on Instagram. If anybody, I've recently shared some posts on Instagram about my marriage in particular and having left that situation. And there was a point where I was suicidal in 2013. And when I shared that, no one, even my own brother wasn't aware. He actually called me after that and was in shock. He didn't know that it had gotten that bad. But I would just add that if anyone goes there and any of those posts resonate with them, as far as possibly what they're going through, send me a message. I'm
Yes.
all ears to have a conversation. And after I had posted that, within 12 hours, I had 3 different messages from 3, one female I had known for a period of time, but 2 that were strangers to me. That it just shows the prevalence of that. So I'm here to have a conversation, and I understand too that it's not as simple as saying just leave. It takes time, and I would be an unjudgmental ear to listen to, because I think it just takes a series of steps for a person to take to get out of it. And if they have someone they can talk to that has been there, that isn't going to, that understands it's not as simple as just walking away right now, but can give them some guidance on what they can do to help themselves heal, to get themselves stronger, to eventually leaving, I'm open to that.
Yeah.
I'm open to that. So I think that is someone who hasn't been there, like you said in the beginning, would just say, well, just leave. It's that simple. Just leave.
Yeah.
And it's not. I also think there is a big disconnect in the world of therapy. So couples will oftentimes find themselves in therapy, and unless you're dealing with a counselor unless you're going to a counselor that specializes in narcissistic personalities, it is likely that you are leaving every therapy session thinking that you are part of a bigger part of the problem than you actually are. And then it just becomes a repetitive cycle of years and years of therapy with absolutely no progress being made, because it just gets turned around onto you in every session. And that is why I think that it creates a problem. So I don't think, even if they're in therapy, that's necessarily a good source for them to talk to if the therapist isn't specialized in narcissism. So I would, I'm there and available, I guess, is just what I would add. That's there are female narcissists by all means. I have a male close to my family who was in a relationship with a female version of what I dealt with, and fortunately I identified what it was immediately, from having been there, and with the help of some others close to me, we were able to convince this individual to get out of it after a year. But looking back, he sees all of the signs and manipulation and trauma-based mind control that was happening in that year, and he fortunately had enough people around him, myself being one, that knew what it looked like and identified it, and kept on him constantly about what this was and where it wasn't going to get better. But I don't think most people don't have that around them, and most people don't have narcissists do a very good job at presenting themselves as something different than they are. So if you don't know what to look for, people on the outside are going to think that this is a very good, honorable person. And some of the signs I was saying is what I've identified, at least with my own situation. The male I'm speaking of is actually my brother, and in another female is they will oftentimes present themselves as being, could be wrong, it's not all cases, but they will present themselves as being a man of God and a family man. And that, I believe, is an intentional tactic to where when you do speak up about the abuse that's happening, you're the one that's not believed, because this is a good person in the church, this is a good person in counseling. You know, they can quote scripture like no one else. And
it's a good cover up for them.
It's a good cover up. I've seen that. Again, I've seen that. I'm not to say all narcissist abusive people do that, but that's what can make it very hard. And they will also do a very good job at being, active in their community, active in their professional world, whatever that looks like. And they're a completely different person behind closed doors. I would say that's another sign that you're with a narcissist. If their image in public is not what it is at home with you, it's a highly likelihood.
Oh no, yeah. And y'all got to think of it like this, just like she just said. They're pulling a cloak over your eyes in a home and in a relationship. So you think they have any problem pulling a cloak over everybody else's eyes too? No, it's just a different cloak. You know,
Exactly.
Watch out for which blanket or whatever that they're putting on that day, because that's huge. No, that makes to me even total sense that, this person you see at home doesn't look like the person that you see out in public. And it's like, wait a minute, that, it don't make no sense. And that's good. That's real good.
Have that, if you're identifying that in your relationship, that's a big red flag there. There's not consistency there. And that's, again, what makes it harder, I think, for them to leave, because they aren't believed, or they aren't believed. I would say they aren't believed in the sense of when it comes to therapy. At least that was my experience, is when it came into the therapy sessions. It's you never make any progress, because it's just this back and forth. So that would be a sign to look for. But yeah, I am, all ears if someone wants to have a conversation.
Yeah, no. And that's, I can second some of this as far as, yes, again, if you're going through something right now and you need somebody to just talk to, reach out to Sarah. If you can't, on her Instagram, and we're going to put literally all her information on in the bio and the links and everything, company, her personal stuff, everything. Reach out to her. Also know that, I am a guy, but you can reach out to me too. I've said this for a long time, and I mean it so much. To me, it's a lot harder a lot of times to reach out to somebody that because of the judgment you're afraid of. Family,
Exactly.
friends, direct. Reach out to a stranger, especially you don't know what that stranger, we talked at the very beginning of the show. You don't know what that stranger's been through, but reach out to a stranger. Somebody is always there. For anybody that says I have nobody, you do have somebody. You got two people on a screen right now that are talking to you. You don't have to know us to reach out. You just have to pick up the phone, type on the phone, shoot us a text message, shoot a message. And these are just big hearts. Sarah's got a huge heart. You don't have to know her personally to see that. It's there, so please reach out. I can't say that enough, and again, I will put I'll make sure that all of Sarah's stuff to get a hold of her in any way, including the lovely bags with no Bigfoots on them, will definitely be in the links. Sarah, do you got anything you'd like to add in closing?
No, I think just it's probably not the best spot to add it, but going back to the part of someone reaching out to me, where it not only being an ear for them to talk to, I would say I have a lot of, if they want the guidance, this all starts, getting out of an unhealthy relationship really starts with yourself. So it wouldn't necessarily even be, I would probably, they can share their experiences and kind of, bounce off that situation's unhealthy. But where I think I can be of value is pointing them in the direction of where they can begin to start with healing themselves of why they're in that situation and getting themselves stronger to the point of where they eventually get out of it. So I have a lot of resources just from personal things I've read and how I've handled that to getting out, that I think could be helpful for someone that doesn't really know where to start, of how they start, working toward that path of getting out.
That a lot of times is the hardest part, is starting. It's just starting, acceptance, honesty, and start,
Right.
and that's while we're talking about the narcissist stuff, this is business, this is life. That what she just said is in all aspects of our life. To start the bag business, for me to start a painting business, and now a speaking company, and it's a lot of it goes in together. But that's it's reach out. She's going to give you a starting point, and then it's up to you. You have to take the action and start. Boom.
Because I would add that it's hard to see it when you're in it, but I would add that the grass is greener on the other side in ways that I never ever could have possibly imagined while I was in that state of mind and in that type of situation. So they wouldn't regret doing the hard work, I can assure you.
Yeah. Nope. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Again, reach out to Sarah. Go over and check out her links. Give her a follow on Instagram. Check out the bags. Tell us that website again.
Qontevo.com. Qontevo.com.
There we go. Beautiful. That's all I got. So God bless you guys. This has been The Mental Edge with Sammy J and Sarah Sawall. And until next time, boom.